Well, how's everybody doing this fine morning? How you doing, Fernando?
I'm cold.
We're filming this when it's kind of cold out, so this will probably be the summertime when you're seeing it. What we got going on today, I'm kind of excited about. It's a Ford, which kind of, you know, hey, we do a lot of Fords, but it's not an F-150. It's a Flex. What are we doing in the Flex, you might add? Well, we're gonna do a full system using an audio control LCQ1. Let's take a look at it, shall we? Inside here we have the factory radio. This is a really super expensive dash kit, so they're not down for changing that out at the moment. They may not at a later date. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna put all this Alpine stuff in here. We got some R-type tweeters, some 5x7s, which hopefully will fit. We'll get the door off, make sure it's calling for these. It looks a little bigger than a 5x7. We're also gonna put the PDX V9 in there. Yay. And of course, the LCQ1. He's also getting a bass knob and a Stinger powering kit. The plan right now is to pull out what he has already, which is one of those cool kicker hideaways. This guy right here. It's mounted up underneath the seat down here in the shadow that you can't, this abyss of light. Anyways, we're gonna pull that out, and the plan is to put all the new equipment there. He's got, as he called them, little hellions for kids. So we're gonna make sure we're gonna build our amp rack so that it's kick proof, so the kids can't beat it. And also we'll put a cover over the LCQ1 so that once it's set up, they can't get in there and accidentally turn the little dials or you know, drop a french fry on it and go woo. First thing we need to do is get the radio out so we can figure out what kind of harnesses it has, so we can hopefully make some form of a T-harness to plug into it. Get the door panels off, figure out what size speakers are in the doors, make sure they are indeed the 5x7s. If not, we'll just go grab some 6x9s. Let's hop in the car and get that dash apart.
First thing you want to do is unclip the center console where the cup holder is. 2 clips on the back. Start from the back and then go forward, and there's 2 clips under the radio. Unclip it. The trim where the gift shifter is, pop it, unclip the whole center console. Now it's 2 7mm under the radio. Then you want to unclip the trim panel on the top of the radio very carefully. To 7mm.
After that, you want to pull back these side panels here because there's a 7mm here in the back on each side. I don't think I'd recommend pulling these out unless you had the seats off, because there's all these metal clips, and if you try to pull these far one back, it's more than likely going to scratch up the side of the center console.
That's it.
So here's the back of what this looks like. It's all one big piece. That's why when you replace this, you have to get the whole new really expensive dash kit. Yeah, it's just using a regular Ford standard harness. All right, so this is just gonna be a standard 5800 harness. So what we're gonna use is a Best Kits BHO and a BHA 5800. And from there, we should be able to cobble something together. We also may have an actual T-harness for this over. But anyways, those are the 2 harnesses that we'll be trying to team up. We can set it back in the dash for right now. Now that we figured out which harnesses we're going to need, I'm gonna go ahead and work on that and try to get these together. You're gonna start
I'm gonna start pulling the kicker piece out.
Okay.
And see the mount.
Oh, you're gonna build the mount?
Or
no, you can build the mount.
No, I mean,
No, go ahead. Because the door speakers aren't gonna take you that.
Yeah, I can do the speakers.
You want to do the speakers?
Yeah.
Because I don't think those are going to take you that long.
No, it's just like...
Why don't you build the mount then? Or wait, go ahead and start on the speakers. Fernando's going to concentrate on working on the speakers in the door so we can make sure that those are the right sizes. Yeah, let's get to it.
I'm going to start doing the front driver door speaker. So when Dean is working in the harness, we don't trip each other. So as soon as I finish this, I go back, do the tweeter, and then go to that side. So he can work with the amp, the LCQ1, and we don't trip each other.
For this, we went ahead and found, this is a Bluetooth harness, and for that, it's got a male and female on it. Like we said, we were going to use the 5800s. That way, all we have to do is just a little bit of modifications to them to suit our needs. So it already has the speaker wires here. It has the speaker wires here. All we have to do is do a little bit of soldering where we connect some of the power and ground wires back together, and we can tape this all up, and we'll have a perfect T-harness for what we want to use in this car. So anytime you're making a T-harness like this, what you want to make sure is that whatever wires are on the plug side go through the plug and are on the output side. If you're missing one wire, that could be the difference between it working and it not working. Most radios have more than just power, ground, and accessory going to them. Illumination, as well as parking light. Sometimes they have other data wires that are connected to them. If you're going to make a T-harness like this, and if they're not, if some are in places where others aren't, you can always move those wires. Like in this one, we had to move one of the pins because it was missing from the other side. The thing I want to do is just go ahead and add a little piece of heat shrink to them on each end so they're color coded differently. That way when we go to connect them in the dash, if they're buried or whatever, we can look at this and know that there's two different ends here. And what we'll do is when we run the speed wire, we'll also put the same color on it so that it will match up to that. For example, this is what's coming out of the radio. It has a piece of white heat shrink. This is what the amplifier is going to hook up to. It has a piece of purple heat shrink. When we put the speed wire in, it'll also have pieces of the same color heat shrink so that we know which end is which and where to hook them up to. So there's our T-harness. It's all set. If you want to at this point, you can plug it into the car because you really don't need it again until you're done. So we'll set this aside and take a look at the amp. If you guys have never seen a PDX V9, the Alpine 5 channel, this guy is a monster of power. It is 100 watts by 4 at 2 or 4 ohm, doesn't matter, as well as 500 by 1, there again at 2 or 4 ohm. Now one of the features that makes this amplifier unique is these guys right here. These are plugs that just plug into the amplifier. So if you flip the amplifier up on the end here, you'll notice all these. These are going to be your speaker wires. They're going to plug in just like this. I like to take a Sharpie and label them 1 through 4. That way I know which one is which if I'm not using like speed wire where the wires are colored. So I'll mark them 1 through 4. And I always write the number on the top positive, so they're all going to be positive up. It doesn't matter which direction they go, and that's the other nice thing. And like it can go positive up, positive down. Doesn't matter. I just do that because I'm picky. The power plug is also set up the same way. So essentially this whole amplifier just plugs in. Bass knob plugs in over here. Has 6 RC inputs. Now on the other end of the amplifier, you have the crossover / gain controls. We're going to go ahead and turn the gains all the way down. You have high pass on and off. For channels 1 and 2, you have a 10 times multiplier switch, which means that you can use this amplifier to run tweeters on channels 1 and 2. Channels 3 and 4 has a high pass or a band pass. It also has a subsonic filter. How a subsonic filter works, it's a high pass crossover for the subwoofer. What that allows you to do is that energy that the subwoofer can't play. So for example, it can't play 20 hertz. If you set this to 20 hertz, it's going to actively cross that subwoofer over, thus making the amplifier work not as hard to create frequencies that you can't hear. It's adjustable between 5 and 30 hertz. You can basically turn it up until you don't hear any difference, and then you'll save a lot of energy that the amplifier will have to consume. Subsonic filters are really helpful. What we do for a basic default on the amplifier is turn the gains all the way down, set all the crossovers to 80 hertz. It's just a default setting we do so that when we plug it in, when we first power it up, if something were to happen, the speakers just won't go crazy on us. So said we're doing the LCQ1. We're just going to have a front and rear channel input on it. What we need to do though is go ahead and pop the top on this and make sure that all the jumpers are in the places they need to be. Page 7 of the instructions, they have the jumpers and what color they are. You have 2 green and 2 red. We want to look for the red ones. The one we're interested in is the auto mode. We want to make sure that is set to on. What the auto mode does is the auto mode will automatically create the 3rd channel for you. So you put, let's say, channels into 1 and 2, channels into 3 and 4, whatever is on 3 and 4 will automatically transfer to 5 and 6. How you can see what that looks like is Audio Control does a really cool job of putting this guy right here into their diagram, and auto mode is talked about this right here. It says auto mode. It's showing you the signal path of how this works. Rear comes in, if auto mode is on, it'll automatically create that sub channel for you. Otherwise, if it's not on, you have to plug wires into 5 and 6. We've learned to just start doing it from the get-go. Now there's other jumpers in this. If you're going to use this as a summing module, meaning let's say you have a tweeter, a mid-range, and a subwoofer, and you need to get one channel output, you have the green jumpers up here at the top, which are located over here in the circuit board, and those are for summing, so that you can sum channels 1 and 2 to 3 and 4 to 5 and 6, so you can have all those channels coming in and get one RCA output. You also have this jumper over here, which is the GTO jumper. The GTO jumper is the great turn on. The way it's set up right now is that when signal comes in, it automatically turns this on. If you have any issues with this turning on or off, or not turning on or staying on forever, this is the jumper you're going to want to take out, and then you'll run an accessory into the input here so that the unit will turn on and off with the car. We have a lot of success with the GTO, so we're going to use that. Done with setting the preset on this, we can go ahead and put this top back on. So just like the amplifier, we want to go ahead and set this guy up to some default. Turn the inputs down to about 9 o'clock. Make sure that all our EQ settings are set to 0. Have this all set to flat. There's two things we still have to do. We have to get working on the amp mount, and we also need to put an RTA on the factory radio and see what kind of signals coming out of the front and the rear. And the reason why we need to do that is we need to find out if the rear is as full range as the front or if it varies. That's important because a lot of the times the front channels will put out more signal than the rear channels. And like we said, the rear channel is what's feeding the sub channel. If the rear channel has limited bandwidth, we want to put the front into 3 and 4 here and the rears into 1 and 2. It can just screw with your head, I know, but we want to make sure that the sub is getting created from the channel that has the most bass. Now if they're the same, it's no big deal. We got front, we got rear. However, if not, like I said, this will be front, this will be rear. Let's head over into the car. I have the RTAs hooked up. This one is coming out of front, this one is coming out of rear, and as you can kind of see, this area right here of the rear, there's some form of a EQ or crossover going on. As you can see on the front, it's pretty full all the way across. We don't have any drop here. We can turn the volume down some, see if that changes. You can see here we're losing some of the bass response. Kind of gradually goes down here, staying good. So what this is telling us is there is some form of crossover happening on the rear speaker that isn't happening on the front speaker. We're going to want to use our front outputs to power our subwoofer and not our rears. Now that we've done that test with the RTA, we know that we want to use this inputs for 3 and 4 for this bottom portion of it. That's going to be these guys here. This is going to be our front, then the top will be our rear. And there again, front and rear means nothing, so don't get caught up in that. That's one of the two things we had to do. Now we got to build the amp board. Looking at the room that we have, the plan is to make a mount that sets the EQ right over here. It's going to kind of hover up above the amplifier. The whole thing will be mounted on a panel here, and we'll have ability to screw it in, and then there'll be a ledge that goes here and screws and holds the whole thing in place. Let's go cut some plastic. So this is what we've come up with right here. This piece is going to keep the kitties from kicking it. It's made out of 1/4" ABS. It's going to screw into this top bar here. We'll put 2 rivets in it so that this will screw in. And then there'll be 5 screws here across the bottom. We've already just got 1 in. We'll go ahead and pull that out. And then this tray here is going to hold our amplifier and EQ. So now what we need to do is go ahead and get them mounted and build the riser for this guy here. The Alpine amp mounted and we have the top back on. Now what we need to do is make a floating mount for the EQ here. So we have our riser all set and ready to go. This is the back here where that back panel is going to sit and block anyone from kicking it. Now all we need to do is get this bad boy wired up. So the amplifier is all set and ready to go. This is that top deck we were talking about. We have the wires all going up to there. All the plugs are in. RCAs are color coded on input and output. Like we said, there's the rear, there's the front, there's the sub. Inputs are the same. Let's get it in the car. Alright, so the fuse holder is just finished up. Good job, Fernando.
Thank you.
Fernando's fancy fuse holder. It's mounted in place right here. There's a cool little clip that he made to attach to this, as you saw. So that's all good. Inside, I have the dash back together. The only thing that's left to go in is the center console pocket. Once we get that in, that'll have the bass knob attached to it, and it's tune time. Grab the RTAs and start metering to see what the heck is going on in this car so that we can make it sound better. Polarity's all good. We have the DD1 here. The first thing we want to do is figure out where this radio clips at. So right now it is clipping. All right, we're good. Yep, that's clipping right there. Turn it down one. All right, not clipping. Clipping, not clipping.
All right.
Let's try 1,000 hertz and we'll figure out which one is the lesser of two evils. All right, so we're not clipping. Is that at the same volume as the 40 hertz?
Yes, same volume.
All right, so we're not clipping there. So we clip at 40 at that. So we'll just leave that as max volume. We have our two RTAs. We have our coming from the radio, and then we have our coming out of the processor. So now we're going to go ahead and try to level this off a little bit.
What?
The EQ's not working. We need the bass knob so we can turn on the EQ. EQ's off. The LCQ1 is actually capable of having its own external subwoofer volume control, which is this guy right here. The one unique feature about it is it pushes in and out like this. If your LCQ1 out of the box for some reason, like you're turning the dials and nothing is happening, that means it came default off. The only way to turn it on is to plug in an ACR2. This one came programmed off. Let's go to
track 11.
Let's go to track 11.
Got it.
Turn it up.
Turn it up, sir. Let me know.
Down.
Down. Down.
Up, stop. Go back up.
Up.
Up, down one.
Down.
Right there.
Okay.
Down one more.
Down one more. Okay.
All right, that didn't matter. All right, so go up one. Where's that?
That would be cool if we have it in right here in the M.
Okay. All right, so that's 3.8 volts of output. That is a lot better.
That we're gonna use that for the volume.
We're gonna use that for the volume.
Okay.
All right, so let's go back to pink noise.
Pink noise. Okay, pink noise, sir.
So now that we have the EQ on, we're gonna go ahead and, like I said, start tuning this. And remember, the middle channel is the front, and that's where we're gonna start. Alright, next we'll move over here to the subwoofer. Alright, so we put a nice bump into the subwoofer because there was none there to be had. Alright, let's go to the rear and see what that looks like. Alright, so we have a hole there. I don't know what it is about Ford, but Ford always turns down 1,000 hertz, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. Alright, so we have a semi-nice little curve, little slight smile that we have going on here that looks pretty nice. We've boosted some of the trebles, brought in some of the mid-bass that was lacking. We did that on front, rear, and of course on the sub we brought in, where there was no sub, we brought in a bunch of bass. So that'll be nice there. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and get the amplifier plugged in. There, or there. That. Alright, so up until this point, we've been playing it without the subwoofer. First we play the fronts, then we play the rears. We have the RTA, we're RTAing the front, and then we'll bring in the rears. You know, that's kind of how we do it. Now that we have this about where we want it, we're going to go ahead and add in the sub to see what that's going to bring into the party. So we just used my drawer of goodies here, tune this guy, and make it sound better. Let's take a look at it. There's the kick panel, all nice and kickable. And then we put a plexi cover on top of the LCQ1 so we don't have to worry about any little fingers or french fries getting in there. This is all secured. There's a rivet here, rivet here. All right, that's a wrap. This one's done. Awesome, yeah. Right? Lots of fun.
Yeah.
Now you look like a hoodlum.
I'm sorry.
All right. Well, hey guys, thanks as always for watching.
See you guys later.
How about on to the next one?
On to the next one.